Okay. Hey everyone, my name is Rachel Burley and I'm a registered psychotherapist at Cobblestone Medicine and Rehab.
And my name's Shannon Wiley. I'm a registered social worker at Cobblestone as well.
Awesome. So we put this together because Cherish Gamble actually let us know that some of you guys had some questions during this isolation. So we wanted to try to provide you with some help. We decided to record this because we know everyone's schedules are kind of all over the place with working from home and the kids being home and having to teach and everything like that. So finding a time for everyone to join is kind of difficult. So hopefully this will give you a chance to watch it whenever you do get that chance or that spare time to be able to look at that. So Cherish did provide us with some of the questions that you guys posted in the group. So we're just going to go ahead and try to answer some of those questions. Now, it's hard to do that in this type of format, obviously, because we don't get to know you guys as individuals to be able to explore these a little bit more. So we're just going to try to provide you with these answers to the best of our ability. We're also going to provide you with some resources and some tips after this, some articles, things like that, that you may also find helpful as well. Okay, so we're just going to go into some of the questions. So the first question that we had was relieving guilt around our expectations. So that's like working out and that's eating healthy and any other types of expectations that we have for ourselves day to day, and that type of guilt that we're feeling now. So Shannon, did you want to start with this one?
Yeah, sure. So I think some of the examples that were provided were just specifically around working out and trying to continue to eat well amidst having your kids home a lot more often than we're typically used to. So, I mean, this might look different for anyone depending on your situation at home. But I think part of it is sort of starting with sort of these positive messages or self-talk. So sort of ensuring that you're not sort of falling into the rabbit hole of kind of, negativity towards not feeling like you're able to meet those expectations that you might typically be able to meet in a more supported or less busy situation. So if you're feeling like you're not able to get that time in terms of exercise, is there the opportunity to potentially incorporate that with your kids? So going for walks or, playing soccer or hockey on the street. Yes, it might not look like spending an hour at the gym, but are there other ways to incorporate that physical activity into your day? Since we know how important that is for our mental health, it's certainly important to continue doing if you can, but it might just look different for now. And just also sort of remembering that this is temporary. So you'll certainly be able to return to the good routines that you had in place in terms of working out, or even having time to prepare maybe those more healthier meals, but just sort of giving yourself a bit of permission to maybe have some flexibility around what that looks like for you right now. Also for people with partners at home, is there the opportunity to even make that part of your schedule? So is it saying to your partner, can we kind of designate some time in our day for maybe I go for a walk or a run at this time while you watch the kids, that sort of thing, just sort of finding a bit of balance there and prioritizing yourself amidst the crazy sort of course of the day. Might also look like in terms of eating well. I don't know if that's partially related to, having difficulty going grocery shopping as often, or as spending as much time at the grocery store as we might typically do, especially if you're feeling like you're needing to bring the kids with you, or just in terms of social distancing, not being able to go as often as we normally would. So just, if there's the opportunity again to, trade off with a partner, or if there's an extended family member that might be going to the grocery store sort of at different times than you are, and if you're running out of certain things, that might be the option too, just in terms of sort of seeking support maybe more often than what we're typically used to, and also communicating our needs to those around us.
Yeah, that's great. I think that like a big picture of all of this is that self-compassion towards ourselves and setting these realistic expectations. Like this whole situation right now is very unknown to all of us. It's a new experience for all of us. So we kind of need to develop this new norm, right? Like, yes, we're used to being able to do things a different way, but now we're having to do things this way. So setting those realistic expectations with what we have in our environment right now. If things are hectic, we don't have time to do our hour workout, maybe we could do like 10 or 15-minute like home workout from like a YouTube video or something like that. Or we can go for a walk with the kids, or we can do those activities outside like Shannon was talking about that will help us still get some of that activity level up. But yeah, really practicing that self-compassion, how we talk to ourselves. You know what, this is a situation that's really difficult that we're all in together. So just trying to get through it the best ways that we can.
For sure.
Okay, yeah. So the next question that we have is around struggles with co-parenting and like difficult co-parenting strategies. So first, I just wanted to talk a little bit about if we do have good communication with co-parenting, some of the things that are really good to do right now is working on those ground rules, right? Like setting those together, how you want this to look for your kids, right? And setting the expectations right now. So in terms of isolation, in terms of sanitizing and cleanliness, you know, in terms of people coming in and out of the house, or who's allowed to come over, or your kids being able to see friends, or where your kids are allowed to go, like really communicating that stuff together, and setting those expectations together so that you are working on the same page and you are working as a team. Also in terms of what you communicate to your kids about this and how you communicate it is important to do together as well, and kind of discuss how you would like that to look so that you do have that equal same page feeling across for your kids as well. Is there something you wanted to add to that, Shannon?
Yeah, I think also just having an open dialogue around anything that your kids might have mentioned to you, like if they've disclosed fears or anxieties to one parent, it's helpful to sort of disclose that to the other parent and maybe strategize around how that was responded to, and how you want to continue responding to whatever fears or anxieties or questions they might be having around the pandemic.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really important. So then when we're talking about maybe more difficult co-parenting relationships, I think it's important to kind of just ask yourselves a few questions. So this one was kind of hard for us to answer because without exploring this more, knowing you guys individually, knowing your situations. So maybe just asking yourself a couple questions around, you know, where is this difficulty coming from? Like, what is it around? Are you worried about your child's safety? And is that worry justified? So like, do you have facts that prove that this other parent is not isolating, or is letting lots of people in the house, or is jeopardizing your kid's safety, is not sanitizing or being clean during this time? Like, do you have actual factual evidence of this, or is this more assumptions out of fear? Because that's really important at this time to not cause more problems, right? So if this does become an actual safety issue where you do have these facts, or you are really worried about these things, then you do have a right as a parent to keep your child at home, or to contact a lawyer at that time, because then it becomes a safety issue, which is much more important. But it is something that you must be sure of, that it is actually a safety issue. Shannon, you want to add to that?
No, absolutely. I completely agree. It's difficult for us to speak to in terms of specific situations when we don't know all the information. So it's kind of really just balancing knowing your child and based on your situation, when to sort of take it to the next step in terms of seeking legal advice, I guess, depending on the situation.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. All right, so our next question was around just like managing anxiety in general. So we kind of wanted to answer this in a few parts, you know, managing anxiety as an adult, as a parent, and then also managing the anxiety that your kids may have around this situation. So first, we just wanted to talk about really, like, in the grand scheme of things, the most important thing to do right now is to focus on what's in your control, right? So we have so many things that are out of our control at the moment. You know, we don't have control over when this is going to end. We don't have control over the people who aren't self-isolating. We don't have control over the toilet paper shortage in the grocery store. But we do have control over the things that we're doing, right? We do have control over how much media we watch. We do have control over our own isolation, of our own sanitization, of the people that we allow in our house, and also how we take care of ourselves during this time, how we keep ourselves distracted, how we manage our anxiety. All of these things are actually in our control. So sometimes it's just reminding us, when our mind does go to all those things that we're worried about, really bringing us back to focus on what's in our control at this very moment. So a big part of that is actually grounding, which is something that we wanted to talk about a little bit. So grounding is, you know, when our emotions are really high, we need to actually be able to calm down our emotions, right? So it can bring us more to the present moment. It can bring us to here. So then that logical side can come back in and we can be able to do things, right? So sometimes when we're feeling too overwhelmed with all this stuff that's going on, or too overwhelmed with everything that's happening in our house, we can feel that in our bodies, right? So when you can start to feel that anxiety coming up or that overwhelm coming up, it's grounding those thoughts to try to calm us down in that moment and give ourselves like that little bit of reset that we need. Now, grounding can be done in several different ways, and we've actually decided that we're just going to post a few resources for you guys for grounding strategies, but little things like, deep breathing is super important for grounding, progressive muscle relaxation, small meditations, like things, it depends on the amount of time that you have. If the kids are running around like crazy, you could do a couple deep breaths maybe in the meantime to give yourself a reset. If you do have someone that can help you out, or the kids are napping and you can give yourself like full time for meditation or muscle relaxation, then that's great to give you a reset. But just keeping in mind that grounding really does help calm the emotions, bring you to the present, and help you focus on what's in your control, which is super important. Shannon?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think we also just wanted to take a little bit of time just to sort of talk about a couple other strategies just in terms of managing anxiety, and also just sort of doing some of that self-care piece that can also kind of just be grounding in its own way, in terms of setting aside some time just to sort of listen to some relaxing music. Sometimes people find that journaling, even at the end of the day, can be calming, just give you some time to reflect on the day. One thing that I like to suggest is just focusing on maybe 2 or 3 things that you're grateful for at the end of the day, or at the beginning of the day. That can be sort of stress relieving for some people. And it just gives you something to reflect on throughout the day as well. There's also things like if you're finding that your thoughts are becoming a little bit overwhelming, just in terms of other distraction strategies, whether that's, engaging in an activity with your kids that can actually be quite effective in terms of just sort of adjusting your mindset and your train of thought, whether that's, painting with them or coloring, or reading a few books just to really distract your brain from whatever it was that was initiating those sort of thoughts of anxiety. And then just again, reiterating what Rachel had already mentioned in terms of limiting your exposure to, the news. Maybe if you can keep it to a certain amount of time each day, or set aside a specific times each day to watch the news, so that you're not really getting roped into it. You can kind of get sucked into it, and you can end up getting quite sort of overwhelmed with all of the facts and details that are being thrown at us. So sort of implementing for yourself and your family just some rules around exposure to news specifically might be helpful as well.
Yes, for sure. So, and that kind of goes into our next question, which is around like managing the negativity that's going on right now, right? And there's a lot of negativity on social media and on the news, a lot of fear mongering happening, a lot of scary articles being posted and memes being posted, and all of these different things are being posted. And it's really hard to not get consumed by this when we're spending so much time looking at all of these things all the time. So exactly like Shannon was saying, limiting your time on social media, limiting your time of watching the news is extremely important. If you want to stay informed, that's totally fine. Maybe have a specific thing that you like to watch each day, like it be Trudeau, or, it be Ford's announcement, or it be certain sources that are reliable for you that you like to look at, and that those are more honest sources, or you have certain times of the day you like to watch it for an hour and you turn it off. These types of things, just self-monitoring is super important for this negativity right now. So it's just something to really keep in mind when it comes to all that negativity. And as well as when we talked about with managing anxiety, it's awareness of your body, right? If you feel like you're getting anxious, or you're getting worked up, or you're getting angry or overwhelmed from watching this stuff, like that's the time that we need to probably shut it off or put it away for now and go do one of those distractions or those self-care things to help kind of manage our anxiety, distract those thoughts, and bring the emotions down, because that's super important, right? So listen to your body and know when it's telling you it's had enough of that negativity.
Just in terms of listening to your body, and also the thoughts that are kind of flowing through you as well, in terms of not just the news, but also social media, in terms of, whether it's your friends or acquaintances or the random people that we end up following or paying attention to on Instagram or whatever platform, comparing yourself to other parents and their situation in terms of how they're homeschooling or what activities they're doing with their kids, it can become a little bit overwhelming as well. And I think social comparison can have a really significant impact on, our self-esteem and our mood, and just general anxiety and sort of like feelings of self-worth. So I think just being cognizant of just how much time you're spending, again, on social media, and just being, like Rachel mentioned, being really aware of what it's doing to you in the moment. Because that can kind of start to take a toll, and really just being as present as you can with yourself and with your family, I think at this time can be helpful as well.
Absolutely. That's a really good point. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to go into our last question, which was dealing with just overwhelm with, working from home, with the kids being home, with having to be your kid's teacher, all of this stuff, and also not really having the help of like your relatives, your family member, your friends, or that outlet of your friends, just for like that self-care and unwind time that you need. So I'm going to let Shannon talk to you about this one.
Yeah, so I think this is probably one that a lot of people, probably most people watching this video, are dealing with right now. And there's a whole slew of strategies that may or may not apply to you depending on your situation. But I guess sort of initially just acknowledging that, you're not alone. And taking the opportunity, even if we can't be seeing the family members or friends in person, still knowing that they're available to you to vent to and relate to and sort of hash these sort of frustrations out with as you need to. Because typically we're accustomed to checking in with our neighbors with kids and venting with our friends or seeing people at work even, and not being able to do that right now makes it an added pressure, an added stressor for sure. There are certain things, in terms of working from home, that can be helpful. One being, if you have the opportunity in your home to make like a separate workspace, I think this sort of helps the adults in the home, but also the children in the home acknowledge that this is maybe a no kid zone for the period of the pandemic, and sort of gives them just sort of like some physical, like visible limitations in terms of, okay, when mommy or daddy or whoever it might be is in that room, then they're there to work, and I hopefully over time they're able to respect that kind of rule or routine. I think incorporating routines into the day, even if they might be new routines now that the pandemic has started, but trying to keep some consistency with your routines can really help for yourself, but also for your kids in terms of knowing what to expect, whether that's having breakfast at the same time of day, outdoor time at the same time of day, all of your meals, bath time, those sorts of things, trying to keep a regular routine. In terms of trying to accomplish things for work with kids at home, just for yourself, it can be helpful just in terms of, I guess, mental health and mood and motivation wise, to actually get up and try and follow those similar routines to what you had been doing before. So dress yourself, even if it's from the waist up. Make yourself the coffee that you would typically have at a similar time. Do your showering, like all of those sorts of routines. Keep them in place if you can. And because that's sort of a component of self-care as well, is just sort of continuing to maintain that. It helps just to be strategic too in terms of your schedule. So if you're able to know ahead of time with your employer, what hours of the day you might need to be doing your meetings or being on FaceTime or whatever the expectations are in the day, so that you could maybe potentially, if there is a significant other, a partner, an extended family member that might be sharing the childcare with you, then you can kind of have designated times where they know that they need to be available to support you in that. I know that some families are sort of designating like 3 hours in the morning is my time and 3 hours in the afternoon is your time with the kids, and then you do your work during those time periods. So it's really kind of strategizing and asking for help when you need it, which I think can be a really difficult thing, and not something that we're all used to doing. especially as moms, I think. So really just being aware of what your needs are, whether it's a parenting need or a working from home need, and asking for help, or at the very least sort of venting to others when you can, just around those frustrations that you might be having.
Yeah, absolutely. That was like perfect answer. I have like nothing to add to that. Just thinking when it comes to asking for help, you know, also asking for those breaks times. If you do have that option and you do have a partner that can help you out or someone that can help you out, you know, asking when you do need that little like break, even to go to the other room and take a breather, or you need to go for a quick walk or something, you know, just to give yourself that reset. It's really important to do that. As well as when we're talking about spaces, like you're totally right, Shannon, like that workspace is so important to have, but also just having our own spaces for personal time sometimes too, right? Like we're together a lot more now than we usually would be. So just having those spaces, you know, the kids, if they have a room that they can play in or something like that, you know, where you and your spouse or wherever, that you have your own designated area for that personal time every once in a while when you can get it, is also important, right? It's also a space even that you know that you can go to if you need to, that's yours. That really helps with our mental health too as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that was everyone's questions that we got so far. So we are going to provide you with those resources as well, different links and articles and things like that. If you do have other questions for us, like please let Cherish know. Then we could do this again, and we can answer those questions for you, or we can provide you with more resources. We hope that it was helpful for you. As we said before, like it's really hard to answer a lot of these questions when we don't know you individually, right? But we just wanted to provide some help that we could. If you do feel like you would like an individual session, you have some stuff you want to talk about and work through on your own, get more information, more details, and more help on, please feel free to reach out to us. We work at Cobblestone Medicine and Rehab. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with it. We're both offering the telehealth sessions online or through the phone. So please reach out if you would like some extra support that way. Okay? Thank you so much for listening to us.
Thank you.
Bye.